Chapter 8, we're back in business. The rest of the shoot is a struggle. Greta's funding kept the doors open. Each day is a battle. And we can't cater the rest of the shoot or replace the costumes. We have to choose between keeping the actors happy with food or having the costumes that make the film look good. Which do I decide? Project or people? I'm going to choose the people. Oh wait, no, I can actually do without either. I can save all those funds for post-production and marketing. Oh, do I want to do that? All of these decisions have pluses and minuses. Do I pay for catering and settle for shabbier costumes, or pay for the costumes and ask the cast and crew to brown bag their lunches? The money's got to show up on the screen. What money? There's no money here. So we're going to pay for costumes, and the cast and crew are going to brown bag their lunches. That sounds like a terrible decision. And the film gets finished. All right, so I like that we're getting things going here. Things are moving more quickly. Greta is a fixture on the set, overseeing the management of the production, intervening when she sees something she doesn't like. This adds stress, but we have developed a working partnership. Finally, the last day of the shoot arrives, and the final shot. Always an exciting time. The crew gets hushed. The crew is probably hushed because they haven't eaten in 12 days, and so they're curled up in fetal positions on the set floor, suffering from pangs of hunger. But anyway, that's a wrap. Zemi calls. Actually, Zemi wouldn't say that. It would be Vincent, the assistant director. Josie's there. Josie's back. Throws her arms around Carter. You were great, Carter. Vincent says, "Nice work, everyone. See you at the wrap party." I picture Vincent sarcastically saying this, not really meaning any of this. All right, achievement unlocked, post-production. Cool. And now I'm going to save this movie in post-production, right? And it looks like we are now 32% over budget. Crew stress is up. And it looks like craft has decreased. Yeah, production, the acting, directing, and craft are nosediving. Personal stress, that has gone up. And it looks like we haven't put anything first in like the project or the people. This is actually good in that it's bad, in that we achieved a bit of a people project balance, which is going to result in a very mixed kind of result here for the production and for relationships. And it looks like Josie, a little bit less relationship with Josie, but Tarn's still going strong at 67%. Wrap party. An old friend will host the wrap party at a luxurious home in the Hollywood Hills. The socialites will be there. You consider the classic LA question, what to wear? Why is that a classic LA question? Is that a classic LA question, what to wear? Anyway, what do I wear? I'm going to wear something casual. It's been a long shoot. Or the same thing I always wear, of course. I'm going to wear something casual, reflective of more of a personal vendetta against the system. I'm going to wear something casual. I suppose a t-shirt and jeans would be. So now I arrive fashionably late to the party and finding it in full swing. Everybody's here. Krogan is there. Garbo is there. Right, Garbo is there. Garbo is not there. Okay, but okay. The crowd's peppered with some famous faces, including Fish Grundy, who is dressed as a clown and whom half the party pointedly ignores. So Grundy is out in public and being somewhat isolated because of this contempt of Congress charge and these allegations. Do I talk to Fish? Do I talk to Greta? Do I find Tarn? Do I find Vincent? Do I find Zemi? Well, the shoot is over. So like this relationship with Tarn no longer serves any purpose. So why would I pursue that? Find Vincent Cooper. Why would I do anything with Vincent? To say I'm sorry? I'm not saying that. Find my assistant Zemi. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with my assistant. It looks like now there's a memory here that I'm recalling, which is just before leaving the studio earlier, the police phone with results of the arson investigation. Okay, some intrigue here. Zemi stopped by the police station to take a look at it. Greta sees me. There you are, with a drink in one hand and a tiny dog in the other. Greta with a tiny dog, really. Orson, oh, Orson Welles is at the party. Didn't I just say he was off in Europe? But he did make some movies in Hollywood during the 50s. But at that point, he was basically residing in Europe. He would work in the making Hollywood movies in the 50s to make money that he would then take back with him to Europe to make these other movies, like his Shakespeare adaptations and things like that. So he was alienated from the Hollywood system. He would be hired almost out of pity by people who wanted to work with him. People like Charlton Heston, who hired him to direct Touch of Evil in the 50s. But anyway, so Orson Welles is there. I find this to be a huge pleasure. And so I'm not going to do my Orson Welles impression. Comments on a bird that's there in the house and congratulates me, frowns in the direction of the bar. Oh, and now I'm introduced to Greta's dog, Mr. Rickles. Say hello to Daisy, Mr. Rickles. Okay. Uh, Mr. Rickles bites me in the hand. a sign of things to come, I am sure. So I have a bleeding hand, and I say a word that I wish in hindsight I hadn't invoked in front of Mr. Welles. I assume that's an expletive, a profanity. Mr. Welles would probably have no problem with any of that, but whatever. Greta is sorry, but Orson Welles says he needs his bone. Where is all this going? Like, what is the point of this? Oh, Mr. Rickles used to be Orson's dog. Greta adopted him when his daddy had to go to Europe for a while. Yeah, see, it even references the fact that Orson Welles went to Europe and apparently left a dog behind for Greta Garbo to take care of. But before going off to Europe, the dog was named Cain, Cain, not Kane. And now he's off. Orson Welles is off. Now, Tarn comes up with a smile and a tray of canaps. We did it, Daisy. See, now I'm going to be cold towards Tarn because the usefulness of his relationship to me was to damage the production. But now that the production is over, I can just forget him. And that's it. So yeah, Tarn says, enjoy the night, try not to get into any trouble. And now Zemi bursts into the door. And now I guess carrying the thing that the police wanted to show her about what happened at the fire at Studio B. So the arson investigator said any evidence was destroyed by the fire, but they found something that I might want to see. And let's see, what is it? There's a blue cardboard tube and it's light and small. There's something inside of it. Someone takes it out of my hands. Oh, Mr. Rickles. So the dog comes up and grabs it out of my hands. Where could the dog have gone? Oh, come on. Really? Are we doing this? Does it matter? Where to look first? Well, the bar, the fireplace, the sofa, the back hall, the bar. Isn't that where Orson Welles went? And let's see, the bar is less crowded, but perched on a stool is Orson. So Orson is at the bar, nursing a vodka martini, probably many vodka martinis, and with a bitter grudge against the world. He had a little bit more of a sense of humor about it. I mean, he was in a miserable position, largely of his own making. But his bitterness, I guess, it was part of his persona. It was almost like a role that he would play as like the bitter outsider that used to be at the top of the heap and now someone who's in disgrace. And it's sort of a self mythology of Orson Welles there. This game is using the mythology in place of the reality, but that's okay. And there's Mr. Rickles with the blue tube in his mouth. So Orson Welles is there with his former dog and the cardboard tube, which I want. So what do? Do I distract him with a discussion about the editing in Citizen Kane? Or do I say Greta wants the dog back? Or just cut to the chase. Mr. Welles, your dog has something of mine. Yeah, I have no charm. I have no game. Let's just make this a no nonsense exchange here. Orson lies and says that he gave that to him himself. Again, the trickster. I mean, Orson Welles was basically a trickster, someone who delighted in amusing himself above all others, sometimes to the expense of others. But is a very charming person, right? So here is trying to charm us, and I'm not in the mood for charm. I'm saying it's police evidence. Now Orson is asking about the film. Wait. I might have made the wrong choice here. I should have just walked away, I think. I should have just walked away from this, because the more I talk to Orson and the more he starts getting charmed by this encounter, he might start imposing himself into this movie. Now, I'm looking ahead here, but we're going into post-production. Orson Welles at this time was someone who was very much about making movies that for the purpose of editing. So the movies would be shot in a very stylized way, but with the eye towards how it would be edited later. Sometimes very long takes in Orson Welles' movies, and sometimes you have very fast cutting in certain sequences. Orson Welles would know all this ahead of time. Orson Welles would have this all planned out in his head, and he would shoot things in a very strange way, so people wouldn't understand, like, why are we doing an 8-minute scene in one take, and then just this brief shot over here that's going to be used for like 0.3 seconds, right? He would shoot things in that way. So if you watch an Orson Welles movie from this time, the editing is amazing, right? So in a way, if Orson Welles is going to insinuate himself into this production, he could legitimately save it. He could save this movie, The Green Promise, with his editing genius. So do I encourage this, or do I not encourage this? So wait, so this blue tube, Orson thinks it's from the movie, like it's a prop from the movie, but I'm going to lie. Going to try to cut to the chase here. Now I'm going to try to get out of this as quickly as I can. I want to get away from Orson as soon as I can. So let's say, no, it's in real life. This blue tube is a real thing. Orson says, that's your problem. So Orson says, your problem, my friend, is that life doesn't revolve around the cinema. The cinema revolves around life. That's a very Orson Welles thing to say, I suppose. He says, just think about it. Do I distract him, order a drink? Mr. Welles, your dog. Yeah. Again, I see. I don't have the option at this point to just walk away, which is what I should have done previously. So again, I'm going to cut to the chase. Same response. Your dog has something of mine. Orson looks annoyed. No, that's a blue bone. That's a little blue bone. Why would you need it? Okay, now I can walk away. You know what? Never mind. All right. I have no idea what the significance of this blue tube is, but I have a feeling if I actually could retrieve it and see what's in it, that might be a good thing for the production. And I don't want to see it, right? I don't know how it could be bad for the production. I mean, how can this production get any worse with something that's inside of a blue tube? But something inside a blue tube might improve it. So I need to ignore that. So you know what? Never mind. Oh, wait, I'm locked into this decision. Why do I have to be locked into discussing things with Orson Welles? God, I should have just walked away. Distract him with a discussion about the editing in Citizen Kane. Mr. Welles, I'd love to pet your dog. Look, I can make the same choice here. Mr. Welles, your dog has something in mind. So let's just go with that. No, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Let's try something else here to get out of this. Mr. Welles, I'd love to pet your dog. Mrs. Garbo told me to bring her dog back to her. Let's try that one. Orson will not give us the dog. You can tell Greta that this was a temporary arrangement for her to have the dog. Oh God. See, it looks like I'm being boxed into a decision here that's going to continue this conversation with Orson. Order a drink? I don't want to drink with Orson Welles. Mr. Welles, I'd love to pet your dog. Let's see if I can just grab this blue tube and run out with it. I mean, I'll take the blue tube before Orson Welles, actually, because whatever's in that blue tube in no way can be better than having Orson Welles' genius saving my movie in editing. Okay, so let's see. I don't think he likes you much, Daisy, Orson says. He's rather particular. Oh, see, now I can't do that either. My choices are down to two choices. I can either have a discussion about editing in Citizen Kane or order a drink. I'm going to order a drink. I don't want to talk about editing with Orson Welles. Okay, the bartender says, what can I get you? Can I actually say nothing for me, thanks? Can I get away with that? Can I change my mind? No, I can't. All right, order a drink. I have to pick a drink. A Shirley Temple, a vodka martini, gin and tonic, more champagne. All right, just a glass of wine. God. My mood improves. Oh, but now that doesn't change anything. I still have to like, am I ordering another drink? Do I try a Shirley Temple? No, this game is going to force me to have a conversation with Orson Welles about editing. All right, fine. I'm going to distract Orson Welles with a discussion about the editing in Citizen Kane, although I don't see how that's going to distract Orson Welles from anything. Achievement unlocked, Rosebud. Achievement unlocked, that's no achievement. I was boxed into this decision. I achieved nothing here. Aaron Reed forced me to make this decision. All right, Mr. Wells, I'm a huge fan of the editing in Citizen Kane. The editing in Citizen Kane, I wouldn't say was the greatest thing about it. That's something I would put on the list of, let's say, maybe top 10, but not top 5. You think so? Orson says. So he's talking about Bob Wise. So Bob Wise, that's Robert Wise, who was the credited editor of Citizen Kane, who was also a very famous director, directed West Side Story and directed The Haunting of Hill House and directed The Day the Earth Stood Still. Also a lot of bombs, like the first Star Trek movie, Star Trek. And but he was also an editor, so worked as an editor in his early part of his career. And he says, Bob Wise, so Orson Welles says Bob Wise has to take some of the credit for editing. Although no, Orson Welles says we did plan everything out together in rather excruciating detail. That's correct. That's how Orson Welles would do things. He would shoot footage for the purpose of editing, knowing that was going to be the final process. And now we're talking technically. See, this is what I don't want. I don't want to get into this conversation. The dog is set loose. Oh, okay. So the dog is now back into the party somewhere. Wait, did I just waste all this time over Orson Welles here when I could just go to a different part of this party and get this blue tube? Maybe I did. So maybe it doesn't matter. All right, look by the fireplace. I've left Orson Welles to go to Fish Grundy. There's the dog. Grundy grabs. Oh no, Grundy tries to grab the dog but can't. So it looks like we got a screwball comedy at work here. Not really. Let's check the sofa. Over by the sofa, there's a famous hostess du jour. What's a hostess du jour? I don't know what that is. I mean, there's a Goldwyn daughter or wife or aunt or something along those lines. They call this Goldwyn, a reference to Samuel Goldwyn of Metro Goldwyn Mayer. Someone perhaps related to Samuel Goldwyn is the hostess du jour. All right, so that circle of now these people are being mocked in the movie I'm making, right? I'm making a social satire about it's a romantic comedy about socialites, and I am being controversial in this movie about socialites. So clearly these aren't my favorite people, but I need this dog to stop running around. And am I going to talk to these people or just move on? All right, I'm going to look somewhere else. And the only place I haven't checked is the back hall, so I go there, and it looks like there's nothing much going on there, but a couple of folks are chatting in a nook. Oh, and but there is something here. There's a stuffed penguin. Oh, this was already referred to before. There's an enormous stuffed penguin in this back hall, and a couple of folks are chatting. So Fish is wondering about the penguin. That is something, I guess, that the hostess paid some ridiculous amount of dough for at a charity auction. So Goldwyn's niece bought this or something at an auction, came all the way from the South Pole to Beverly Hills. All this is pointless. Like, what is the point of this? This is the kind of crap that I'm making fun of in my movie, apparently. It says check behind the penguin. All right, that sounds like a video game thing to do. Check behind the penguin. Right? I'm sure something's there. You peer behind it, but there's no dog. God damn it. So now I gotta look somewhere else. Where? There is nowhere else. So I have to ask, all right, so wait, the only place I haven't checked is the sofa. No, I already checked the sofa. So this game is making a mistake here. There's a little glitch. In a way, I'm doing a little QA here, a little quality assurance. So I can say that there is a glitch in this game. There's a bug. If you've looked everywhere, it'll still tell you You could have looked under the sofa. All right, so these socialites. I'm really kind of lost in this. I don't know what the right or wrong choices are. It just seems like there's a tube I need to get with a dog, and I don't know. Everyone's having a lovely time? Oh yes. Has anyone seen a small dog? Not here. Has anyone seen Mrs. Garbo? So is that where this is going? Just talking to Garbo? Fine, let's do that. Oh, she was here a minute ago. And yes, of course, that's what she said. She was looking for something. All right. She was probably looking for her dog, right? Check under the sofa. Didn't I already check that? Pardon me. Or did I check behind the sofa? I don't know. But anyway, there's Mr. Rickles. Crouched under the middle of the sofa, still gnawing at the blue tube. I thought I checked the sofa. Or did I just check around this? I don't know. Anyway, can everyone move off the sofa? I need to lift it up. The Goldwyn. We're going to call the hostess of the party the Goldwyn. This is hardly the time to rearrange the furniture. Really, Flack. Can't you wait until later? Now I have to like this. Now the video game thing. This is like in video games. You see this all the time. Like you want to just get something, but the video game says, no, this is a game. It's not that easy. You have to solve a puzzle. So what will unlock this sofa? Let's see. Can everyone move off? I guess that's not going to work. So Fish, do you have any ideas? So Fish does something with his baggy clown pants. Now remember, Fish is like in disrepute at this point. Fish is someone who people suspect as being like affiliated with the Communist Party. He creates an explosion, great, of a snake out of a can. He scares the dickens out of these socialites around the sofa with this snake in a can. And I say to Fish, I'm afraid your reputation may never recover. Well, that and the allegations of communist sympathies, right? That's another thing that's going to affect his reputation. But anyway, lift the couch. God, can we finally get this? So the dog runs towards Fish. Fish grabs the dog, and the dog jumps off into the back hall. Jesus Christ. Let's get this over with. Yes, let's get this over with. So we race into the abandoned hall. So Mr. Rickles still has the tube in his mouth, growls. I make a leap. I pounce on the dog, and the dog escapes my fingers and flies straight into the support for the penguin, and and is knocked out. All right, so I knocked the dog out, and now I'm going to get the tube from the dog's jaws. Orson's lumbering shadow spills into the hallway. Great. We have to hide the. It says it's a comatose form of. Well, all right. The dog apparently isn't dead, but looks dead. The dog is comatose, unconscious. Do we convince Orson is just asleep? No, we're gonna just hide the dog. I don't want to talk to Orson Welles. God damn it. So I'm gonna hide the dog inside the penguin. And let's see. Orson is looking for the bathroom and sees Fish and heard about this dreadful blacklist nonsense, an absolute disgrace. That's right. Orson Welles, I mean, not only was against this whole communist witch hunt, but left Hollywood in part in protest of the way Hollywood was cooperating with the government. And Wells says, I know you'd be welcome. Fish would be welcome at Wells's new production house on the continent. So again, so it's good reference to Orson Welles having now a company in Europe making movies. And Fish should go to Europe to make movies with Orson Welles and screw Hollywood. The 50s sucked anyway. So in Hollywood. So thank you, Mr. Welles, Grundy says, but my home's here in Hollywood. Whatever. The restroom's right this way, sir, Fish says. So Orson goes away. Daisy, now he has advice for Daisy. Orson says, you're a promising talent. I would hate to see you make the same mistakes I did. Do I want to make the same mistakes Orson did? No, I want to make even worse mistakes. And now says, once I dreamed of getting career advice from Orson Welles. Now I find myself rather distracted. And there's rustling in the penguin. So the dog is now coming back to life. But Orson, and now I got to hear Orson's advice. It's a terrible machine, Hollywood. That's correct. Lifts people up and spits them out after strangling their souls. I mean, a little melodramatic, but yeah. Turning art into meat. marketing it to executives, housewives, middle school principals. Real voices terrify them. You've seen that. You know the score. And now the Penguin is rustling more. I need to get Orson out of here. Don't let them commodify you, Daisy. I mean, Orson, did Orson let them commodify him? Not really. I mean, Orson's whole problem is that he never got commodified. What gave him a short career in Hollywood was his lack of ability to conform. So for him to have as advice to not make the mistakes he made, to not commodify yourself, I mean, in Orson's terms, that's what he had to do to maintain, his artistic integrity. If you just want a career in Hollywood, then yes, it's a mistake to stand up for your artistic principles. Hollywood just wasn't a good fit for Orson Welles. It was never a good fit. Orson Welles basically became a freelance hustler, really, hustling for money without that studio support. I mean, if you think about the movies Orson Welles could have made, if Welles had conformed some way to the Hollywood system, like Alfred Hitchcock did. Alfred Hitchcock conformed to Hollywood quite well, actually. Orson Welles could have done that. Think about how many movies and what kinds of movies Orson Welles could have made if he had conformed to the system. So there's that loss, right? But the movies Orson Welles did make were great. Even after he left Hollywood, these were great movies that he made. And in a way, you had to say that was a result of his refusing to conform. I mean, Orson Welles is someone you just don't want to hear advice from on, in it for anything, because Orson Welles is a singular artist, right? Why would you take advice from someone like that unless you were a singular artist yourself, right? And wanted to hear that inspirational word. But Orson Welles is clearly someone on the outs with the industry, someone who is struggling, someone who is not a role model, like that you would say you wanted to have a good career. You wouldn't follow the model of Orson Welles. So why didn't Orson Welles invite me to come work at his European studio? Like, I'd take that up in a second. So he's saying, stay true to your dreams, no matter what it costs you. No matter what it costs you, stay true to your dreams. It cost Orson Welles a lot. So I guess Orson Welles knows what he's talking about, but for him to give someone that kind of advice, like suffer the way I suffered, is basically what he's saying. That doesn't sound like an Orson Welles that is thinking straight. But anyway, enough about Orson Welles, right? I have a feeling if I say the wrong thing here, Orson Welles will get involved in my movie. Let's see what's going on with this penguin. It looks like there's a noise from the penguin, so Mr. Rickles has revealed himself. Still, I mean, I guess Orson Welles thinks it's the actual penguin making a sound, so Orson Welles now goes to the bathroom. Okay, yeah, we want Orson Welles out of the scene. 2 minutes later, the dog limps woozily back to the party. I've shaken hands with Fish, and finally, I have the tube. This is like one of those adventure games, like when you finally get the thing, you've gone through all the puzzles to get the thing. Now we have the thing. You rip off the seal and upend the contents into your hand. Now, all that's inside is a small brown nub, no bigger than your thumb. Frowning, you pick it up and hold it to the light, and that's when you see what it is. The stub of a cigar. You sniff, and the odor is unmistakable. It's a Diego cigar, which means it's Krogan. Dun dun dun. I guess that means Krogan was spying on the set, I suppose. This is evidence of Krogan. Wait, not only spying on the set, but perhaps who was at Studio B at the time the fire was set. All right, so did Krogan sabotage our production? I guess we shall see in the next chapter. Chapter 9, the day of the assembly edit screening. The assembly edit, that is the editor, I guess that's supposed to be me, right? So yes, I must choose. I am the picture's editor. And I've seen now the Green Promise. I've seen a rough edited assembly of the footage for the Green Promise. And as the editor, I am responsible for making all of this come together, I guess, to save it. Well, I say, adjusting my polka dot bow tie. There's certainly some work to do. I'm sure there is. The pacing looks terrible. Looks like there's some disappointing performances. The awful level of polish could be blamed on being somewhat over budget, and the extraordinary stress and tension among cast and crew that affects the final quality. That wouldn't necessarily affect the final quality, but I guess as someone who is looking for excuses, looking for someone to blame for my own problems, yeah, I'm gonna blame the cast for their bad performances. This is always what happens when someone is forced to either be accountable for, let's say, a bad movie or find some way to blame someone else. If there's someone else to blame, that usually is what happens. The writer is usually the one who gets blamed for things, but in this case, I am also the writer. Daisy is also the writer, so I don't know why I'm blaming the cast, right? Zemi says, I wonder if some of the weaker performances could be improved with some reshoots or judicious editing. Well, that's practical. And Greta is there. Garbo is there to see the rough assembly with me. Doubtful, but we'll go with it. And Greta is referring to Dr. Flack on this one. Now, what are the plans for editing? First, let's take a look at the production. Looks like we've got now nothing's changed with the story. It's still an original, intellectual, relaxing, somewhat middling quality story. The production is in the toilet. Bad acting, bad directing, bad craft. And it looks like in post-production, we have very poor pacing and very weak polish or very low polish. We are 12% over budget. Personal stress level is 62%. And because of my level of skill with editing, I'm able to make 3 more changes to the edit. I guess that choice of mine to have a 10 years experience editing has given me some ability here to recover this project. But of course, I don't want that to happen. So let's choose the wrong thing here. Do I want to improve the pacing, improve the polish, re-edit to focus on strong attributes or draw attention away from a weak one? Consider a reshoot for more drastic changes, or trim, a more drastic way to improve pacing. Consider a reshoot. That's always a sign of a borderline failed production when reshoots have to be done. You can try to do some reshoots. This is expensive, but produces a larger change than just achieved. I can now improve acting. I can improve directing. I can improve craft. I assume these are in the reshoots. Reduce smarts. That is, make it a little less intellectual. Increase the novelty. Reduce the novelty. Or go back. Do I want to increase the novelty? Well, what are we talking about here? Novelty. Novelty is the problem here, isn't it? That the idea of having a social satire romantic comedy set in Morocco with an ensemble cast made up of relative unknowns, that's somewhat novel in a bad way. And it looks like that's probably the one thing that'll have a bad result here. So let's increase the novelty. The reshoot alters the novelty from 78 to 81%. Okay, cool. So now we have a more original story, which is not necessarily a good thing here. And we are now 17% over budget. Personal stress level at 62%. I can make 2 more changes. We can do another reshoot. All right. We definitely want to spend more money here. What are we going to do with this reshoot? Increase the novelty further. I hope this means we are increasing stats here in a bad way. Yes, it does. We have altered the novelty from 81 to 83. And now we're 21% over budget with a personal stress level still at 62. We can make 1 more change, consider a reshoot. I'm just going to do the same thing over and over again. We're doing 3 reshoots on this movie to increase the novelty. Which is exactly what this production doesn't need. It says a reshoot is often a great option to significantly boost some aspect of the film. Unfortunately, you just don't have the final resources to do this right now. Oh no, we've run out of money after 2 reshoots. Have to try some other approaches here. All right, do we trim to improve pacing? Well, all right, let's see what's bad about this. So post-production, pacing is at 20%, polish is at 26%. Improve pacing, improve polish. Re-edit to focus on a strong attribute or draw attention away from a weak one. All right, or trim, or just say done. We're just done. We don't want to this. Yeah, we're done. That's it. You're out of time. Good. There'll be more chances to improve the edit later. I'm sure there will be. When this movie is not seen by anybody when it's released, I'll have all the time in the world to sit in the editing room and rework it when it's far too late to do anything. That will make this a success. So the rest of the week, we're alternating between the editing room, managing operations, and talking with distributors. What distributors would want this? I have no idea. It is an uphill battle to convince theater chains to show a film from an upstart studio without a track record. Not necessarily. Like I was saying before, theaters, they do have a lot of leverage. They are in a competitive environment where they have somewhat of an advantage over producers and studios who need those screens to put their movies on. But the theaters are also in desperate circumstances now. They need to fill those screens with content. They need constant flow of content, and they have to manage these spaces that are sometimes very large, right? These large theaters in cities, and then they're trying to expand and have theaters outside big cities in the suburbs. And now we have the drive-in circuit as well, which has its own whole level of management. So it's not like the theater chains are going to turn down, let's say, a very generous offer from Polka Dot Bowtie Productions to say, I have this movie and it's going to fill your screen for a certain amount of time. Will you take it? So what should I do now that we have wrapped The Green Promise? Do I put another film into production, which would create good buzz for The Green Promise? I guess that would. I mean, it would put stories into newspapers, a new production from the makers of The Green Promise, which is a coming feature. Do we rent the studio space out to another production company, which is what would happen, to generate some income? Or keep the staff on salary, but give them some time off, which would reduce stress. At this point, I mean, who cares about the staff, right? Meaning, like, the stress level of the staff, I don't think is going to have any impact on the quality or the success of The Green Promise, which is now in the can. And now it's up to me to edit this thing and get a distribution deal. So it doesn't matter if the stress level of the staff is high or low. We're in trouble. So let's pick this one. Keep the staff on salary, but give them some time off. Give the staff some time off. That will have no impact on the production. And it looks like, we realize this is impossible. With the current financial situation, you'd have to let almost everyone go. All right, so I have to either rent the studio out or put another movie into production. Let's put another movie into production. Seems like the most reckless thing to do at this stage. And to stay in business, I hire a producer to get a new project moving, keep the lot bustling. And so Fish arrives. Now he's got an idea for the new production. We're already doing a new production now, and Fish has an idea. And Fish says, look, I know about the blacklist, and he can't get work. So Fish is one of these now out of work talent who is being targeted by the anti-communist witch hunt. And so people he's known for 30 years will no longer take his calls. And now working with him is a risk. And then now I have to respond to this. Do I want to keep working with Fish, let Fish be part of this new production? Or do I say no? All right. So my position on this is I'm not a political ideologue who is really gung-ho about fighting communism. But I'm also not gung-ho the other way. I'm not gung-ho about anti-communism, where I want to become an activist and just like hire everybody who is targeted or put on the blacklist. I just want to ignore the whole thing and just have a moral failing there, that I'm just going to be on the sidelines. I'm going to be basically neutral in this. And it looks like I have a few options here with that. The studio just can't afford another project right now. Well, that's true. We can't afford another project right now. I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's too dangerous for me and my crew. Or maybe it's best if we're not seen together anymore. Well, that's quite cold. Maybe it's best if we're not seen together anymore. Man, that would be. See, I don't know if Daisy is that committed to protecting the company from hacks like Creed in the government. I'm just going to be neutral here. Again, I'm going to pretend that other forces are at work here. That's not allowing me to make a decision. I'm going to be wishy-washy. The studio just can't afford another project right now. Sorry, it's, just can't do it. Sorry. You know how it is. And Fish says, you got to play the same game as everyone else. And then I ask, what can I do? And I say, if you need money, and Fish, with, I guess, a lot of dignity and self-respect, stands up and says, no, Daisy, thank you, but that's not necessary. We'll get by the same as always. And he says, wouldn't think after all I've been through in this business, I'd have any pride left at all. It's a very moving moment, I think, for Fish. That Fish is able to stand up and say, even after all this, I feel pride in what I'm doing, pride for the industry. Later that afternoon, I can't get that conversation out of my head. There must be something I can do. I'm going to have to say Fish can take care of himself. In the next playthrough, of course, I'll say something different. By Friday, the editing has pushed Fish's problems from my mind. I'm living and breathing reels of footage. So I'm in my element here. I guess I'm in the zone, editing The Green Promise, looking for a perfect version. So where are we now? Basically, nothing has changed except the story has become more original in the editing booth. That's not a good sign. We are 25% over budget. The personal stress level is now higher at 67. And I guess I'm now able to make more changes. I guess a reshoot is out of the question at this point. I'm just going to say done. I'm done. No more. I can't do anything. Someone's at the door, a knock. It's Tarn. I've been meaning to find time for a chat with Tarn, but aren't I too busy? And yeah, at this point, Tarn's usefulness to me is, it says, I'm exhausted. Maybe I shouldn't talk to anyone and take the afternoon off. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's just take the day off and not talk to anyone. I drive home, not realizing how exhausted I am. I guess this will improve my personal stress level, but that won't improve the project, I assume. Saturday, for once, I'm staying home, working my way through the newspaper. Tarn, knock at the front door. Tarn is like stalking me at this point. Tarn has a suitcase. Tarn's father died, and too many headstones back home that ain't been visited. So Tarn, who has this tragic backstory, his girlfriend died tragically. Too much unfinished business, so it looks like Tarn is leaving. And I ask if Tarn wants to come in. Tarn can't stay. I give Tarn a hug and think about what we've been through together. I say travel safe, and Tarn wishes good luck with The Green Promise and walks off into the drizzling rain and says, it's so much like a movie that I can't shake the feeling I'll never see him again. It is like a movie. It's a romantic drama, this little subplot here. We wanted to be together, but fate got in the way. So goodbye, Tarn. Next chapter, chapter 10. Where are we now? Looks like we're hearing, friends, good taste isn't a matter of geography. Sounds like a commercial. And yes, we are at a radio station listening to someone record a commercial or broadcast a commercial. And I guess we're here to do publicity. And now here's Don Mason telling the audience, telling the world about Polka Dot Bowtie Entertainment, where the studio's bold new visionary, Dr. Daisy Flack, is answering questions from our listeners around the country about the first picture, The Green Promise. And it looks like, okay, there's reference to the incredible amount of location shooting in the desert sands, the involvement of Greta Garbo in this project. See, that would be the biggest piece of publicity ever. That all by itself would get people going to this movie, unfortunately. And the studio's assistance in rooting out the Reds in Hollywood and its controversial subject matter. He's kind enough not to mention some of my publicity missteps, like the fact that you've spent hardly any money on promotion. And now we have a question from a Ms. Davison from Chicago, Illinois. Says, what's one word that describes your new picture? Okay, we need one word for this. What's the worst thing to say? Intelligent. Never say, if you're going to sell something that's like a piece of entertainment, Never call it intelligent. That makes audiences think you're saying they're stupid. Or if you're going to sell yourself to somebody, never say, well, what's great about me is that I'm really intelligent. I'm so arrogant. So, all right, intelligent. Another question. A listener in Akron, Ohio wants to know what kind of music this film will have. Yes, what kind of music? Good question. Do we fill the soundtrack with the latest hit songs, have a cheap score, have an avant-garde composer to create something unique and original? Not have any music. That's an option. Not have any music. Wow. At the time we're talking about here, the 1950s, that is extremely rare. And I mean, I'm trying to think of an example of a movie that's famous for not having a soundtrack at this time in the early 1950s. Yes, we can not have any music. In fact, not having any music, that would actually be more experimental than hiring an avant-garde composer to create something unique and original. I mean, you even had at this time in the 1950s, you had some what you would call avant-garde soundtrack music using instruments like the theremin, which would the electronic music that would be for movies like Spellbound, like that Hitchcock thriller about psychiatrists and dreams, had dream sequences, or something like Forbidden Planet, the science fiction movie from 1956 that had an electronic score. So that was something that was pretty cool at the time in the 1950s. But to have no music whatsoever, like that would be almost more avant-garde than having avant-garde music. So let's do that. At last, the interview's over. We shake Don's hand, and the last few weeks have been rough. The film is moving through post-production as smoothly, but there's no word from Tarn. All right, I don't expect to hear from Tarn again. Now, Zemi grabs my... Zemi's always coming up with something strange out of nowhere that I now has to seize my attention. Says Zemi says, Dr. Flack, I got you an all-day exclusive with a reporter from Photoplay. Saturday. Oh, it looks like I already invited Vincent Cooper to come with me for a drive up the coast on Saturday for an art festival. Why would I do that? But it looks like I have a choice, either the interview or Vincent Cooper. Going with Vincent Cooper I should do the interview if I want to have some publicity for the movie, but instead I'm going to try to reschedule it. And it says he might not be happy. He meaning the interviewer from Photoplay might not be happy. All right, where are we now with the production? Looks like we're still no real changes here. Nothing significant. We're 7% over budget. Well, now the personal stress level was lower because we took the day off back then. And looks like we can still make changes to the edit. I wonder if we can do a reshoot at this point for more drastic changes. I don't know. Let's just say done. Spend the next hour in a deep funk. Maybe you shouldn't have rescheduled that interview, you think? But if I'd spent more time with Tarn, would they ever have left? And so it feels like whatever decisions you make, you can't come out on top. It's unfortunate, isn't it? Maybe you should give up trying to get any more work done today. If you give up now, are you throwing everything away you've been fighting for? Do I want to take the afternoon off, spend time with my niece, or keep working on the edit? Well, taking the rest of the afternoon off will probably reduce my stress level or increase it. It's a little weird here, like how this option is presented. Like, is taking the day off going to increase my stress, or would it lower my stress because I'm relaxing? In other words, would taking the rest of the afternoon off be more or less relaxing? I can spend time with my niece. I guess that would be a pointless thing for the project, right? That would be good for a personal relationship, bad for the project. Although Josie seems to know a lot about movie making, so I might get some good advice from Josie, which I don't want. Or do I keep working on the edit? There's still time to make a few more changes. No, I'm done with editing. No changes. So I'm going to spend time with my niece. I pick Josie up from school. Well, I asked Josie what she wants to be when she grows up. And I hear first she wanted to be a cinematographer, and then an editor like me. Then and then talking about editing, saying that would be the person with the coolest job, to see all the footage, not just the final shots, and imagining all the different movies you can make depending on how you cut them together. That's kind of a romantic idea of like what an editor does, and that they're in this magical place where anything's possible in the editing room. Well, no, editing is a lot of grunt work and busy work. Just technically getting everything in order is a nightmare. So yeah, it's not a wonderful job, but it is very satisfying to see an edit come together and to see what happens when you go from raw footage to an edited version. There's a lot of excitement that happens in that process, but it's certainly not like the coolest job. But now Josie says she wants to be a director. Doesn't everybody? Everybody wants to direct, to be the one to just point at things and say action. That's the romantic idea of what a director does. And then I whistle and say, that's a pretty rough gig. Ever thought of being a writer instead? A writer means better hours without so much spirit crushing responsibility. I don't know about that. Josie says she likes directing better. If she wanted to write, she could stay at school. They make her do writing all day long. I'm just going to stay quiet. And then says, I must have been really popular at school. And do I say I was popular? Am I an outcast, or do I not remember? I don't remember. I don't know where this is going. And Josie is pulling at my heartstrings, trying to bond with me. And talking about problems at school and doesn't like school. I mean, this is something that you get actually in a family melodrama or a coming of age drama of the 1950s, troubled youth, right? Focusing on teenage problems, growing up in when it looks like Josie's got only one parent who's somewhat neglectant and trying to choose between responsibility and dreams. Coming of age story Josie has. And Josie is talking about her mother, my sister. And I'm sorry about that situation. And I'm going to say, I'm here for you if you ever need me. Pretty good. And Josie's very grateful. Talk about Vincent. So asking about Vincent, why am I not talking to Vincent anymore? And I guess she heard the gossip of what happened on the set. And I say, sometimes you make the wrong choice. Sometimes you make the choice that's right for you, but wrong for someone else. And sometimes there aren't any choices that are right for everyone. That's just the way it is. I'm being philosophical at a time when I really should be in a panic about the choices that I've made, instead of being philosophical about the choices I made. Although maybe I'm coming to grips with the reality of the situation and just kind of just having a realization here, and there's nothing I can do about it. And now I just have this acceptance of all the wrong choices I made. And now I can be philosophical about it and tell younger people, it's a tough world, kid. Almost like what an Orson Welles would say, I suppose. And let's see. Josie refers to a secret admirer of mine on the set. That would probably be Tarn. And mentions someone from Krogan Studio. By the way, what's going on with Krogan? Wasn't there that piece of the cigar that I found from Studio B that burned down? What's going on with that? Is that going to be like a third act twist? We shall see. Enough gossip for one night. And it looks like I'm having trouble sleeping. I'm exhausted. Maybe a long walk will clear my head. And so I'm out walking. I'm on the paths of Griffith Park, setting an aggressive pace, but no destination. Yeah, I'm trying to escape, basically. And I sit on a park bench near a streetlight. I see what looks like a pile of what I thought was trash, but there is someone there. And it's that screenwriter from Paramount who wrote The Vanishing Ones. So this was someone who is one of the first to be put on the blacklist. So now I'm meeting someone who is a victim of the anti-communist witch hunts, who appears to be in very dire straits, a beggar asking for money, and mentions that he couldn't get work, lost all his friends, lost his apartment, got nothing left. I've got to help him. And now again, I'm just going to defer this whole thing and say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. And I retreat towards dark paths. I've just abandoned now this person. At least Daisy in this version of the playthrough, been given many chances to show a moral backbone and has avoided all of them. Let's see, I stagger out of the park. I'd stop at a newsstand to buy a paper, which I assume is the morning edition. And let's see, I see the newspaper headline, and it looks like I've been subpoenaed. So Daisy Flack has been subpoenaed by Congress, specifically Jonathan Creed, to testify about Polka Dot Bowtie Entertainment and Hollywood Subversives. And the hearing begins next week. The future of the troubled studio is in doubt. All right, this is exciting. So we're heading towards what I think will be the climactic part of this game, which is appearing in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee. And do I name names, or do I refuse to cooperate? And I assume this would be the dramatic climax of this game, and not so much the release of the Green Promise. Although I'm really looking forward to see what happens to that as well.